Are all ethics applications considered by the School of Sport, Performing Arts and Leisure Ethics Committee? And what path will my ethics proposal take? That's a good question. Yes, all proposals are considered by the School Ethics Committee. However, you don't submit yours to the School Ethics Committee. What that does is that overviews all of the ethical submissions in the school, so not just the Department of Sport, but all the other departments in the school, and just ensures that there's a common standard across all departments. Everyone's playing to the same rules, and fairness is applied consistently in terms of the decisions being made. What you do is you submit your ethics proposal. It is an assignment for a module in exactly the same way, as you do any other assignment. So that's in time, with all the relevant personal identification details needed, so we give you a grade back, and it will be marked accordingly by your lecturer. Second mark, so that its accuracy, just like any other piece of work, is marked. Only the criteria for assessment includes a judgment of whether this is ethically sound in terms of future proceedings. Of course, if there are issues regarding that judgment, you'll be notified accordingly by the same feedback procedures that you are in any other module. Your lecturer will make the marks available to you, and you'll collect them. There'll be feedback, respond to the feedback in terms of see what it is, and respond to it by contacting them. And it will be explained. Your supervisor, the person you're proposing to work with, is of course going to be the real point of call, real point of expertise regarding the project. And I just think it's best to see them as early as possible. What are the issues I need to consider in an ethics application? Well, these vary from project to project, so I really can't give a definitive set of answers. And what I would say is that any project that involves human participants, I mean, we use the word participants, not subjects, and I really think that should be really clear in everyone's mind why we use participants. Is that you will have to gain informed consent. That is, tell the person what the study is all about, as much as they need to know, and certainly what they're going to be doing, whether completing a questionnaire, taking part in any sort of interview, running a treadmill, and so on and so forth. But just the method that is going to be put through. You don't have to tell them all the decisions regarding the project. And I've read on some of the sheets given to participants about how they're going to analyse their data statistically, and participants don't need to know that. They need to know what they're going to be doing. They need to have any risks explained to them, so it's really clear what's required for them, how long they're going to be taking part in the research. And I really think you should be totally honest with that, and I think it's really good practice to road test in that time, so you can say with confidence this will take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and so on. And what really annoys participants is when you say it's going to take a minute of your time, and it takes a lot longer than that. And I'm sure you have all been caught by cold callers who will say this questionnaire takes only 60 seconds, and so on, and 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the thing you are angry and giving responses accordingly, and that's the sort of data you'll get. So the issues that will be like the informed consent, you're going to have to adhere to the Data Protection Act. You're going to have to make a justification of why the benefits of this research outweigh any risks to participants, and you're going to need to know what those benefits are, and you're also going to need to know what the risks are, including any health and safety issues. And again, health and safety issues are going to vary from project to project. So I can't get into the details of any one of them, but if you're using any particular questionnaire piece of kit, it has been used before, or most likely been used before, and to then look at the literature to see how it's being used, and if any issues are reported accordingly in terms of health and safety factors. Okay, how do I measure potential risk harm when a study like this hasn't been conducted before? Tricky one. Start by having a really detailed examination of the literature. It's unlikely that you're going to be investigating an area that has never been studied before. It might well be that the specific method hasn't been used that much, but the actual area is unlikely to be studied that much before. And if it has, it may not be the appropriate time in which to conduct such a study. It might be that it might be potentially interesting, but it's something that would be done at PhD level, because what you'll find is that it hasn't been investigated that much before. You're going to run into roadblocks regarding the ethical issues, methodological issues regarding collecting data. But that doesn't mean that I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm saying that it's sensible to plan out your work so that you can hand your dissertation in at the required date, which will be sometime in the third year. That's not a 3-year study like a PhD, where it can overlap a little. The PhD can't overlap that much either. So you really need to be really, really tight on the times and in your planning of your study. Doing something where there's a great deal of unknown regarding the design, and design includes the ethical issues, is probably not advisable from an undergraduate perspective. But you start by reading the literature and exploring the links regarding the nature of the concept in terms of what potential risks are going to be. You look at all the health and safety issues regarding the assessment of things which are similar to that, and by that I mean if there's a potential clinical issue in terms of, say, psychology, which is my home topic, then the clinical issues regarding, say, depression are not enormously different to those of anxiety. But what I would say is that undergraduate students wouldn't be doing projects in clinical issues, because I really think that would put them in a potentially risky position, because they're working with people who are out of their skill set, which is also a really, really important point about ethics, is you always keep within your area of competence. Am I allowed to work with people from a vulnerable group, such as children, or people with certain disabilities? And the answer to that is yes, but it needs to be qualified, justified in terms of the benefits of that study against the risks involved. So that then goes into the details of the project, and your justification of how you're going to take care of the participants in that study, to make sure that they are protected from your research, and it's not in any way put them at risk of anything. Against that are any of the benefits that could be gained from doing that research. You need to work, those two need to be weighed up against each other. What I would say to this is that it's one that you tread with caution. I would go and see your supervisor, who has most likely conducted research in that area themselves. And if they haven't, then no one on the staff has done research in that area, and that is unlikely to be a highly qualified and research active staff. Then again, you are treading into the unknown on your own. As a third year about to hand a project in next academic year, possibly not the most advisable path to take. Even PhD students, I don't advise them to go into areas where they have very, very limited experience, unless they can qualify that risk in terms of, yes, I can collect that data and I can do it in the time frame allowed. Because as supervisors, of course, we want you to do really good projects, and what we wish to avoid you doing is running into a roadblock that says, I have no time to collect this data, get relatively poor data, and as a consequence, everything suffers in your project. So the answer is yes, you can consider potentially vulnerable groups. However, proceed with caution. Can I collect data on friends and family? Oh, that is a commonly used strategy, and I would say yes, that's a pretty good starting point. Almost all of my studies start off by collecting data of friends and family to pilot the ideas, and this is the key point: pilot the ideas, see how long it takes to complete a questionnaire, get some really insightful feedback on the process about what you're about to be doing, explain the study to your friends and family so that it sounds feasible. In terms of them being actual participants in the main study, I would operate with real caution here, because there's likely to be some sort of bias in terms of trying to get you the best result possible. In terms of your family, in terms of your friends, may well believe that they could just bend your results a little bit just just for a bit of entertainment, possibly. I would get people who are blind to your project at the starting point, don't know you that very well, so you come across as a researcher who's serious about what you're looking for, rather than someone taking part of you because they're a friend. And that way, I think you get better data. And I think you develop better skills as well, because you have to convince someone to take part in your study. That's not a salesman persuading someone to buy something dodgy, but you present the benefits of taking part, how long it will take part, and that is a useful skill, and you can transfer that to lots of different areas in terms of when you're actually trying to engage people to do things that you want. Do I always have to include an information sheet to provide to my participants? Well, I think it's courteous to start with to actually tell people roughly what they're going to be doing. So the answer is yes, you do. And in terms of ethical procedures, you need to require an information sheet. And what you do, how you write the information sheet is also really important. And remember who your audience are. So you write your information sheet for your audience. If your audience are people who are not degree level students, then you write it in the language for them. Don't put super long words in that, so that confuses everyone, or highly technical words in that bemuses people, so that they have no idea what you're talking about. Particularly statistical terms are often chucked in, absolutely unnecessary. Explain what you're going to be doing in a study and how long it takes, and people will be happier to take part because they know it's going to be nice to them. Am I permitted to use invasive procedures? Can I administer drugs and supplements? You could do research involving supplements. The answer is not a wholehearted no, but again, one would treat with extreme caution. You need to defend and explain why you are going to, what the benefits of the area of the drug you're using, and what are its potential benefits to the knowledge, and what the risks the participants are, how frequent it's being used, and how well known. In other words, how well known are those risks? You can't do anything illegal, so you can't do a study that tests the effect of steroids, because that would mean your participants who would immediately at risk of being caught for cheating, and that is against the rules. This is one that you need to speak to the expert, your supervisor, just to find out if this is possible. At a PhD level, it's likely. At an master's level, it's possible. An undergraduate level, I would suggest, is highly, highly unlikely. It's likely to be a B category project, and therefore high risk. And you need to be really, really clear and persuasive as to how to say that you can take part in this. You could run this study. It's likely that the supervisor would be the one who was giving the supplements. This is again which needs to be treated with super caution, in that you must be qualified to be able to administer the treatment for drugs that are being looked at in the study, in any study. So if it's caffeine, for example, and it was a caffeine drink, and that might be a dose no more than a couple of cups of coffee, then that project's possibly likely. And there was research previously that looked at relatively small amounts of caffeine as an ergogenic aid. If it was the effects of one of the various energy supplements, such as the gels that people take during the marathon running, and which are commonly bought off the shelf, then that would be possible. If it was something which was involved administration of a drug directly into the blood, supervisor who's trained in drugs is the person who would be able to say yes or no as to whether he or she would be prepared to run that project. Again, it's proceed with caution, see the supervisor, read the literature, and then reread the literature so that you know what you're talking about.